my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, and today I am giving you my October wrap-up. Now, not October, wow, off. September wrap-up. Now, I will say this is posting on September 26th. I recognize that is a little bit early to be wrapping September up. However, the way my reading is planned, I know that I will be done reading by then, and also I have clear your shit things that need to be posted in October, so I am not able to go ahead and post this October like I normally do. This is going to throw off some of my posting, yes, but here we are. It's fine. Well, it's fine. We'll live. So, without further ado, here is my September wrap-up. It is a short one. It is a short wrap-up. Like I said last month, my reading has slowed way down. I think it's picking back up, but we'll get there, right? So for the stats, which is the major part of this video, or rather I feel it's the major part of this video, I read 15 total books, a total of 1,273 pages. I listened to audiobooks for a total of 124 hours and 23 minutes, which is the equivalent of 5 days, 4 hours, and 34 minutes. I read an average of 83.6 pages per day, and I listened for an average of 5 hours and 38 minutes per day. My average rating was a 3.9, which is not high for me. It was not a good rating time this month. This month was a lot of 3-star reads. I think I'm getting more and more honest with my rating every single month. I also think that the more young adult I read, the more honest I am about how much I don't enjoy the characters. The way I felt about The Blood Trader is really indicative of that shift in mentality for me, I feel like. I did a total of 3 rereads, which was to prepare for series continuations like The Prison Healer and also The Witch King. I read a total of 4 library books, and I purchased 2 books. I don't have the total sum of how much those purchases cost, but I believe it was around $36. None of the Ninth and The Final Gambit are the 2 books that I purchased, which I will be reading next month. I read a total of 10 audiobooks and 5 ebooks. For the ebooks, 1 of them was between the pages of 101 and 200. 3 of them were between the pages of 301 and 400, and 1 of them was between the pages of 401 and 500. So, mostly mid-sized books, pretty much my average for reading, not that surprising. I read a total of 6 adult and 9 young adult books, which does not follow my goal of reading less young adult and more adult, but that also makes sense why my ratings were not so great this month. It all lines up eventually. Now I'm going to show you my book blanket, which has it's very much done for September, and I'm excited about thinking about updating the edges of it and fixing up the edges of it and making it pretty. And I'm also excited about planning next year's book blanket, and I think I'm going to take you guys along for that journey, so, stay tuned on that. But for the book blanket, I read a total of 9 fantasy books, 2 thriller, 2 horror, 1 nonfiction, and 1 sci-fi. Now I'm going to let voiceover me take over from here. She's going to talk about how many hours are now into the book blanket, and also, what is the other thing? Oh, the weight and the size of the book blanket.
Voiceover Andy here. I'm actually not going to be telling you any of that information because I don't know right now, and I honestly just forgot to weigh it. It's a whole thing. I have to get the scale out, and it's just like annoying, and I didn't want to do it, so I didn't do it. But you can see here where I indicate like this was this whole month, so anytime those stitches change like that, where they look, connecty, that is the end of the month moving into the next month. So you can see where my reading obviously slowed down between the gaps of those stitch changes. What I mean by cleaning up the edges, you can also see how bad those edges are and uneven, so I will be fixing that as well. Thanks!
Now for the part that takes up the bulk of this video, and if my camera looks like it moved, it's because it did. My camera died, or was gonna die, and so I had to plug it in, and it was a whole situation. Now for the part that takes up the bulk of this video, talking about my favorite and my least favorite books. Because I only read 15 books this month, my favorites are going to be limited to 3 instead of 5. Only one of them is an advanced reader copy, and that book is already out this month, so We're gonna start with my absolute favorite book of this month, actually, which is Our Crooked Hearts by Melissa Albert. Melissa Albert wrote Tales from the Hinterland, which is one of my favorite dark fantasy tale books, and I'm surprised I don't own a physical copy. I think about those books frequently. They live in my head rent-free, and I should get them and read them again. I enjoyed them greatly. They had aspects of things like the Spiderwick Chronicles to me, but for an older reading group, and I enjoyed that a lot. But anyway, this is not about those books. Our Crooked Hearts had the same vibe and energy, but a little bit of a more horror twist to it. It was a lot spookier than Tales from the Hinterland, and the dynamic between the mom and the daughter and the way that memory magic was used was all done in a really interesting way, and the way that they discuss how your magic is stronger when you're using magic that is directly linked to your heritage, I felt was done really well, because that is a conversation that comes up within, which communities, discussing whether or not you should be practicing any kind of practices that don't fall within your own culture and that kind of thing. I am not going to get involved in that conversation, but I do think that Our Crooked Hearts does a pretty good job of showing an example of that conversation, sort of. And I really enjoyed the book. The dark fantasy aspects of it was fantastic, and the horror was great. And again, the usage of memory magic was well done. The consequences and everything was well done. Then we have my favorite advanced reader copy of the month, which is House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. Alexis Henderson wrote The Year of the Witching, which was a really good book. House of Hunger is the bloody, sapphic, erotic horror, gothic horror of my dreams. Like, it was so incredibly good. And the way that Alexis Henderson writes characters is really fantastic, because she does a fantastic job of writing them. All of the side characters have depth, they have personality, they have backstories that if they are not explained to you, they are hinted at enough that you are curious about them, which I think is really fantastic. I keep saying the word fantastic, but I think it's really incredible. I think that it's really well done. There's a conversation between Marion? I'm really bad at character names, y'all know that, and Irene, where they discuss their hair type, because they have, it isn't explicitly described in obviously curl patterns, but I would imagine 3 to 4C hair, just based on the descriptors. Maybe not. 4C is a little bit on the heavier end, so definitely like 3A type hair. And they discuss how, the servants don't know how to do it, so they just do it themselves, and there's an intimate sort of moment that happens there, and I thought that it was done really well. Like, the conversation didn't feel out of place. It actually gave the characters sort of depth and these intimate moments where you believe that they are friends and they have spent a few months together, because the way that time sort of passes, you don't really know how much time has passed, and sometimes in books like these, it's hard to really recognize that a lot of time has passed, that a few months have passed, because the relationships between the characters doesn't feel like it. Whereas these little tiny intimate moments, and even the negative moments with Cecilia, those little tiny intimate moments really build up the character relationships and make them feel real and dynamic and fantastic. And Alexis Henderson did a really, really great job of representing that, while also the way that Alexis writes some of those spicy scenes didn't make me feel incredibly uncomfortable. I do skim them most of the time, but the way that it was written was well done. It didn't feel gross to me. It didn't feel like you're being way too graphic for the sake of being graphic. Like, it fit into the story, it fit into the languaging, and it felt accurate to the story that was being told, and also accurate to the writing that was being given to me. So I really enjoyed this book. If you can't tell, it's one of my favorite horror books now, and I can't wait to get it in audiobook format so that I can listen to it later on again. And then we have The Witch King by H.E. Edgman. I will also include the sequel, which is the Fae Keeper. I have reread The Witch King. This is the second time I've read it, and I'm pretty sure I put it on my top books of the month that I read it last year. The 4th of July. Was that last year or was that this year? That was last year. I think I put it on my top books for July as well, but it's still a really good book. It holds up. Now, there are moments, and again, this may be because, again, I'm growing out of YA, there are moments where the main character's narration was a little bit annoying to me, but there are conversations around body dysphoria and being trans and relationship dynamics in there, and different pronouns are even brought up, and having your dead name not even recognized by somebody that has known you before you existed. Those kinds of conversations in both books that is done incredibly well and felt like coming home. I don't know how else to explain it, but there's something about the way that H.E. Edgman writes their characters and the dynamics between them and the way that they treat one another, the good characters, the way that they treat one another with regards to those kinds of things like sexuality and gender identity and that kind of thing. It feels like coming home. And I don't have any other way of explaining that, because these are fantasy fairy books. You're probably wondering, Andy, what? And if you can't relate to it and you don't understand what I'm saying, I'm sorry. I don't have any other way of explaining it, but that's just what it feels like to me. Like, these are the conversations that I have with my friends, and this is the way that it is handled, in this gentle, understanding kind of way of like, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I'll do research on it. Like, I will love you and understand you and respect the information that you give to me and proceed from there. I also liked the dynamic between our main character and his best friend, because they have this fight that makes sense to me. Like, their argument, while yes, if they just used basic communication skills, probably wouldn't have happened, but because they've been so entwined in each other's life, they're so used to not having to use basic communication skills, like they just get one another, that when they were fighting, it was hard to understand what was happening, and it felt like they were breaking up with each other. And having gone through that with friends before, that felt very real to me. And I think that when I'm reading a fantasy book or when I'm reading a horror book or whatever, those conversations and those dynamics are really important, because they keep me grounded in a sense of reality when I am having to separate myself from reality for all of these other reasons. So like, having those dynamics is grounding when you're dissociating from reality for all of this other stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. Ugh. I don't know if that makes sense. And now my worst book of the month is hard, because I don't necessarily want to say that it was a terrible book, because it really wasn't. Up until the very last chapter, I loved this book. I loved almost everything about it up until the last 2-3 chapters, and then the very last chapter ruined the entire book for me. This book is not out yet. It is an advanced reader copy, so if you were planning on reading The Villa by Rachel Hawkins, I want to disclaim now, I enjoyed my read of it, but the ending ruined the entire book, so maybe just don't read the last chapter. I am now going to spoil the whole book for you, so don't listen to this if you planned on reading it and you still want to read it, whatever. And also, I do want to say that Rachel Hawkins has a knack for this. She has done it in 2 other books that I've read from her. This is the 3rd book I've read from her, and the other 2 books felt the exact same way, where I was having a great time, I was enjoying the whole book, and then the last 2 chapters ruined the entire thing. This book is inspired by Fleetwood Mac, and it is about like the backstory of how this band came about, and then also this crazy book, and then these 2 best friends in modern day are staying at the same villa where all of these things happened, and they have their own incredibly toxic and horrible dynamic, and so did all of these people in the past. And so you're reading the current day and then also the past sort of simultaneously, and as things are getting revealed, you're finding out all of this information about the past, because you're finding out that this is actually from journal entries from one of the main characters. And this is all getting very, very dark. It's very twisty horror. You don't really know what's going on. It kind of feels like something's being haunted, like people are losing their minds a little bit, and you're very invested in this dynamic and this story and that concept. But then in the final chapter, you find out, one, the 2 toxic best friends, they never really talk it out. So one of them is divorcing her husband because he was cheating on her, and also I'm pretty sure he was poisoning her. I'm not like positive, but I think he was poisoning her. And he deserved what happened to him later on, but it turns out that he was cheating on her with her best friend that she's now at this villa with. And the excuse for that was, I needed to prove to you that your husband was a horrible, bad person. And I'm sorry, if any of my friends did that to me, arrest me. arrest me. Because, and she does, the main character does get into a fight with her best friend about this, but then they make up. They just make up. And it's fine, it's over, it's fine, and done with. No, absolutely the fuck, you don't get to be my friend. We're not gonna write a book together. We're not gonna do this together. And then you also find out, like, there's this big grand confession that happens in the past diary entries. And then you find out later on that it was all made up. She wrote all of these fake diary entries for funsies. None of that happened the way that she's saying that it happened. She just wanted to, if somebody stayed at the villa and found these diary entries, like, what would they think? I just wanted to write the story this way this one time just to see what it would feel like. Fuck off! Fuck off! You had this fantastic dark story and you just copped the fuck out at the end. It irritated the fuck out of me. I was seriously gonna give this book 4 stars, and that ending made me almost give it 2. I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? This was a waste of my time. You just threw it all away for what, funsies? I'm not into this. This was a cop-out. You wasted my time. This was lame as fuck. So that's why it was my worst book of the month. And that's my September wrap-up. Those are all of the books that I've read in September. Well, the stats and then the top books that I read this month, and then the worst book that I read this month. And that's all of the information. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books and you also love them or hate them or whatever. Let me know. I would love to talk about it with you. Again, I'm trying, and I've talked about this a lot, I'm trying really hard to be better about responding to comments. It's just, I've got a whole lot going on right now with Clear Your Shit about to start, and so I am very busy, but thank you guys for your patience and for all of your support. It means the world to me. If you didn't enjoy this video, I'm sorry. Let me know how I can make it better for you. If it's my opinion, I'm not going to change that, so thanks. I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, so turn that notification bell on because YouTube still might not tell you that I posted, and also double check that you're still subscribed if you were subscribed before, because YouTube is just randomly unsubscribing people from my channel again, which is super fun. I love when YouTube does that. So I think that's it. I will see you guys again next week, or no, I'll see you guys again on Thursday. Like I said, don't forget to take your meds, drink your water, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks, bye.